Daniel chapter 6. He's trying to find the perfect message the week before Easter. Some of you may be thinking, and you found Daniel. Well, it wasn't like he was lost anywhere. It's just the more I read him, I couldn't get away from him, and the more that I tried to find a message for today, nothing fit. This is the one that I feel like the Lord has to know. The title this morning is Daniel Removes Every Excuse. I don't know who you are in your world, but I know often I find excuses for things undone. It's almost a fleshly, knee-jerk reaction. We always try to find a reason why things aren't accomplished. Truth be told, however, there's only one pressing need that we have, and that's what we just sang about, a closer walk with Thee. Some of you need to begin your journey. You sit here this morning, you've never truly been saved, and that is the ultimate decision for any life. You've heard it many, many times in your lifetime. You've heard that verbiage hundreds of times, if not thousands of times. But for whatever reason, you still sit here today and you're not saved. Folks, you're the only one who knows. As I've said for many years, there's no shame in being lost. It's just a shame in staying that way. Once the truth has been revealed to you, folks, there's not a better choice out there. It's amazing what God can do in a life or with a life that doesn't have the potential that others may be born with. God can move in mysterious ways to bring about things in your life that you never dreamed possible. I never realized how high the stage is till right now. If I get a nosebleed, please, just ignore it. Amen. One of the most incredible figures of Scripture is this man we find by the name of Daniel. Here in Daniel 6, look at verse 1. It pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 princes, which should be over the whole kingdom. And over these 3 presidents, of whom Daniel was the first, that the princes might give accounts unto them, and the king should have no damage. Then this Daniel was preferred above the presidents and princes, because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king thought to set him over the whole realm. Now, pay attention closely to this scene here. He had already served 40 to 50 plus years with distinction. Daniel was taken captive at age 15. Some scholars say up to 17. Old Nebuchadnezzar invaded Israel and took everything from them and took the choicest servants back, the ones that had no blemishes, the ones that were educated, those that were highly favored. He took them all back to his kingdom. And out of all the people that were considered in his whole realm, not just those that were in bondage to him, but his entire realm, something happened in Daniel's life that caused King Nebuchadnezzar to look at him and said, there is something different about this boy. And folks, I'm going to tell you, when the excellent Spirit of God gets inside of a person, that old spirit has to diminish and that new spirit has to increase, or you've never truly met the real Spirit. Amen. There are many people that go to church for an emotional high, and they will die and split hell wide open because they never said yes to the Spirit of God. There are others that are playing church, and they feel like if they can get close enough to mom and dad's coattails, that they'll get in somehow. Folks, it doesn't work that way. It's a personal decision. And I remember that personal decision in my life. I remember how bad I felt before and how safe I felt afterwards. I wish I could tell you that I sinned less when I got saved, but I was 10. Truth is, I sinned much more after age 10 than I had before I'd gotten saved. So don't fall into that trap. We're all sinners, bought by grace. Yes, you can live a sinless day, but it's very, very rare, and it's almost an impossibility with our mind to consider. Consider one day of not thinking yourself better than someone else. thinking that you're better to accomplish a task than someone else. You're a better plumber, electrician, welder, auto mechanic, preacher, singer. You're better in your mind. Folks, if you feel that way, you've already sinned. Because pride has filtered in. Something in Daniel's spirit, Nebuchadnezzar knows this, was so excellent that he had no choice but to establish him above his whole realm, above those 120 princesses and those 3 presidents that were named. Daniel was chief. Now keep that in mind. Look at verse 4. Then the presidents and princes sought to find occasion against Daniel concerning the kingdom. But they could find none occasion nor fault. Forasmuch as he was faithful, neither was there any error or fault found in him. Then said these men, we shall not find any occasion against this Daniel, except we find it against him concerning the law of his God. Then these presidents and princes assembled together to the king and said thus unto him, King Darius, live forever. Oh, by the way, this was not the same king. He'd been serving so long that there were other kings that had come on the scene. He served a long tenure, so to speak. Let's keep going. All the presidents and of the kingdom, the governors and the princes, the counselors and the captains have consulted together to establish a royal statute and to make a firm decree, that whosoever shall ask a petition of any god or man for 30 days, save of thee, O king, he shall be cast into the den of lions. Now, O king, establish the decree, and sign the writing, that it be not changed, according to the law of the Medes and the Persians, which altereth not. Wherefore King Darius signed the writing and the decree. Now when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, he went into his house, his windows being open in his chamber toward Jerusalem. He kneeled upon his knees 3 times a day and prayed, gave thanks before his God, as he did aforetime. Then these men assembled and found Daniel praying and making supplication before his God. Then they came near and spake before the king concerning the king's decree. Hast thou not signed a decree that every man that shall ask a petition of any god or man within 30 days, save of thee, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions? The king answered and said, the thing is true, according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which altereth not. Then answered they and said before the king, that Daniel, which is of the children of the captivity of Judah, regardeth not thee, O king, nor does the decree that thou hast signed, but maketh his petition 3 times a day. Then the king, when he had heard these words, was sore displeased with himself, and set his heart on Daniel to deliver him. And he labored to the going down of the sun to deliver him. Then these men assembled unto the king, and said unto the king, Know, O king, that the law of the Medes and the Persians is, that no decree nor statute which the king establisheth may be changed. And the king commanded, and they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. Now the king spake and said unto Daniel, Thy God, whom thou servest continually, he will deliver thee. And a stone was brought and laid upon the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet, and with the signet of his lords, that the purpose might not be changed concerning Daniel. Then the king went to his palace and passed the night fasting. Neither were instruments of music brought before him, and his sleep went from him. Then the king arose very early in the morning and went in haste into the den of lions. And he came to the den, he cried with a loud lamentable voice unto Daniel, and the king spake and said to Daniel, O Daniel, servant of the living God, is thy God, whom thou servest continually, able to deliver thee from the lions? Then said Daniel unto the king, O king, live forever. My God hath sent his angel, and hath shut the lion's mouth, and they have not hurt me. Forasmuch as before him innocency was found in me, and also before thee, O king, have I done no hurt. Then was the king exceedingly glad for him, and commanded that they should take Daniel up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no manner of hurt was found upon him, because he believed in his God. And the king commanded, and they brought those men which had accused Daniel, and they cast them into the den of lions, them, their children, and their wives. and the lions had the mastery of them, and brake all their bones in pieces, or ever they came at the bottom of the den. Then King Darius wrote unto all people, nations, and languages that dwell in the earth, and all the earth, peace be multiplied unto you. I make a decree, that in every dominion of my kingdom men tremble and fear before the God of Daniel, for he is the living God, and steadfast forever. And his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall be even unto the end. He delivereth and rescueth, and he worketh signs and wonders in heaven and in earth, who hath delivered Daniel from the power of the lions. So this Daniel prospered in the reign of Darius, and in the reign of Cyrus the Persian. Go back to Daniel chapter 1. I want you to see something quickly here with me, if you don't mind. We find in the story of Daniel quite a bit of things that are misunderstood. He's one of the most popular figures of the Bible. Even those that aren't saved seem to have an understanding of Daniel and the lion's den, they say. It's much like Jonah and the whale. People have a vague understanding of who Daniel is, but did you notice he's about 81 years old when he was cast into the den of lions? 81. This wasn't some young pup defending himself against vicious lions' attack. This was a faithful, excellent, spirited man of God being tossed into a place he didn't deserve. You talk about anybody having an excuse not to show up next Sunday for church, it had been Daniel. Lord, I've been serving you faithfully all my life, and this is what I get in return? Many times throughout his life, he had been put to the test, and we're going to find here in Daniel 1, look what it says, verse 1. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem, and besieged it. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, with part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar, to the house of his God. He brought the vessels into the treasury house of his God. And the king spake unto Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel, and the king's seed, and of the princes, children in whom was no blemish, but well favored, and skillful in all wisdom, and cunning in knowledge and understanding, science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans. And the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat, and of the wine which he drank, so nourishing them 3 years, that at the end thereof they might stand before the king. Now unto these were of the children of Judah Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names, for he gave unto Daniel the name Belteshazzar, and to Hananiah of Shadrach, and to Mishael of Meshach, and to Azariah of Abednego. Now, I started thinking back over this message. What happened to you that you would consider monumentous at age 15? Truth be told, in our churches, at age 15, a lot of our people have lost their virginity. A lot of people may have committed a crime. A lot of folks may have done some things that should have landed them in jail, but they got away with it at age 15. Some of us got our first speeding ticket at age 15. If Brother Earl was here, I'm sure he would echo that. What happened that you can remember at age 15? For Daniel, he was taken captive as a slave. And every freedom he ever enjoyed, every privilege that was ever his, was stripped from him in a moment. He didn't have a mom or dad to depend on. He was literally taken to a brand new kingdom that he had never seen before, only heard of. And he was even given a choice of nothing. You will eat what I tell you to eat. You will drink when I tell you to drink. You will go to the bathroom when I tell you can go. You are completely at my beck and call. And folks, I'm not quite sure that any of us in this room can grasp the full knowledge of what Daniel must have went through. But often we read the Bible without focusing in on what it was that was so special about this man. He could have played the victim's card. He could have said, "Oh, no, I've been taken away from Mama, from Daddy. I can't. I'm going to be a spoiled brat and do my own thing," but not Daniel. Something very particular happened in Daniel's life in verse number 8 of Daniel chapter 1. The Bible says he purposed in his heart not to defile himself with the king's meat. And that little word purpose comes from a Hebrew word, sum, S-U-W-M, pronounced sum, and it literally means to appoint, to set a standard, to not diminish, not to sway. And he steadfastly made a point in his life that he would not fall for the king's vices. At age 15, how would our lives have been different had we at age 15 purposed in our heart that we were going to follow God no matter what, no matter how popular it was, no matter what the politics were stating of the day, no matter what culture told us how to dress, if we just honored God's laws, how differently our churches could be in this country. We are now always going uphill as a church, trying to recover land that's already been given over to Satan, because many at that age 15 are making choices that start them down pathways that they don't serve God for years. And many of them come back to church late in life and they're trying to regain those lost years. But guess what, folks? Sometimes you simply can't. But God can. See, God can take your brokenness and make more usefulness out of what you got left over than you ever could have accomplished in your own marriage. God wants the broken pieces. And I'm here to tell you, folks, that if you don't make a purpose in your life that you're going to obtain godliness and holiness, guess what? It'll never come. You've got to set the standard. And for some of you, you need to get to the cross of Calvary for the first time. Or you've heard every song sung about it. You've talked about it in your private studies. But you've never truly surrendered your heart. You sit here. You wonder, why is he so passionate about what he's preaching? I'm looking at people that may burn in hell for the rest of their life. Some of you, I have no comfort in my heart when I think about you. How can you be saved and do the things that you do? My God came into my heart at age 10 and began to weed out some of the pride things that I have. And I still got issues with that every day. It's not finished with me. It's a work in progress. It never stops working. Some of you think you've arrived because you're 60, 65 years old and you've been serving the Lord for 100 years. Folks, you never get to that place. Some of you need to learn how to be faithful again. Just being at church is a real chore for you. Folks, you ought to make God the center of your life. Every time the doors are open, you ought to be there. Look in Daniel 1:8. Look what he said exactly. But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with a portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. Now you got to go here in this conversation. That's not really being discussed here much. Hey, eunuch, tell the king, I'll take the pass. You want me to go back and tell the king what? He's offering you the best, the choicest things to get you plump, to get you ready for his presence. You're going into the king's house. You have to have every blemish perfect. Everything's got to be removed. You've got to be in perfect health. And this is the way that we're going to nourish you for 3 years just to have the privilege to stand in Darius's place. Nebuchadnezzar's place. Excuse me. Who's Nebuchadnezzar? He's your new king. Daniel says, no, I have a king. See, my king's name is Jehovah. And I've been taught from the earliest of age, no doubt, by godly parents and godly someones around him. Somebody mentored Daniel's faith. The Bible never tells us exactly who that is. Daniel's getting credit, but somebody taught Daniel his faith. Amen. Who was that for you? I could point to a multitude of mentors in my life that were there. When I needed them the most, when I was looking for a decision spiritually, God always sent someone that had been through what I'd been through to let me know how to answer it, to set me back on path. And when your father's a pastor, Your kid, the kids of the pastor, are expected to be a cut above. And I'm going to tell you what, folks, I hated it coming up as a kid. I dreaded going to church on Sundays because you had these goody two-shoes adult parents that were always looking down on the pastor's family. They were always being very critiquing of everything we did and everything that we wore. God forbid you wore a shirt that they didn't agree with or a pair of tennis shoes to church, because it was as if, Armageddon was about to begin. They critiqued everything. I actually got caught picking my nose one time outside church. And the lady went, all I said was, Mom, you don't pick your nose? Not in public and not on God's grounds. And I said, you're stupid. I was fine until I said you're stupid. That's what got me in trouble. I learned early, don't call adults stupid even if they are stupid. Now I'm an adult, I know they're stupid, but I still try not to say they're stupid. But some of you are stupid, amen? I are dumb too. Brother Jack says we all have a high dumb factor. Some higher than others. You think it'd be bad at age 15 to be doing this, but at age 19, Daniel gets a death sentence. Daniel chapter 2 covers that Daniel's about to die. Daniel don't even know why. Because the king had a dream. Nebuchadnezzar had a dream, and he couldn't have everybody interpret it. But Daniel hadn't had an opportunity to interpret it yet. It was that king's dream of the four world empires. Remember Babylon being the first, Nebuchadnezzar? And then the Medes and the Persians, the Medo-Persian Empire took over after that. And then that Greek Empire took over, Alexander the Great. You remember him in history? Then lastly, that Roman Empire, which is very important for prophecy because it will be a restored portion of that Roman Empire, while the Pope himself will be using the greve during the tribulation period as a puppet for the Antichrist. Pray for your Catholic families. Daniel, at age 19, is being taken to the gallows, and he says, wait a minute. What am I dying for? They said the king had a dream. So? But no one was able to interpret the dream. Daniel made a statement in chapter 2, my God is able. That's read in that paraphrase. My God is able. Give me some time. So the Lord gave Daniel a dream, his first of a series of dreams, and he was able to interpret for Nebuchadnezzar what this dream was. Oh, Nebi! Don't start killing everybody. You're the gold. You're the gold mentioned there. You're the one sitting on top. You're that great lion. Oh, Nebuchadnezzar probably adjusted his robes and says, I am, aren't I? I am. Then following you, after you, there will be the Medo-Persian, that leopard kingdom. The bear kingdom. You remember that? They're going to be that bear grinding at people. And then we'll have after that Alexander the Great, the leopard, the ones that are so speedy to conquer so many vast lands. And Alexander the Great died at a young age. What most people don't know about Alexander the Great, he died with encephalitis and sexual diseases racking his body because he had tried everything. I believe he was in his young 30s when he died. Miserable. One of the last statements he ever said was, is there any more lands to conquer? He conquered another world. Folks, you can be given the world and it not be enough. And lastly came that Roman Empire. The Vatican was established, and boy, the wickedness, the great whore of Revelation has been established in the Catholic Church. That whole system there, that's what Daniel had a dream about in Daniel 2. Then in Daniel chapter 3, at about the age of 42 years old, I might add, Daniel, serving the Lord faithfully, doing everything the Lord had asked him to do at age 42, guess what he gets in return for that? You remember the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? They were not going to bow because in that time Nebuchadnezzar had grown prideful and had established this golden image, and he demanded that everyone worship this golden image. And Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said, we're not going to do it. We will not bow. If you don't bow, they're going to toss you into the fiery furnace. So they did. tossed them into the fiery furnace. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. Here's dead. The fire had been warmed 7 times hotter than normal. The Bible states that when they looked into the fire, there appeared yet another figure, like unto the Son of Man. And that when they called them to come out, because they couldn't go get them, the people that tried to call them in there, the fire licked them and killed them to death. So they looked like they could go get them. Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego having a nice fellowship with God Almighty in the middle of a 7 times hotter normal fire. Now, obviously, you're Baptist. Someone should say, "God, man, that's awesome." You put your finger over a match and try to glorify God. They're in the middle of the fiery furnace, and the flame is engulfing them. But the Bible says not even the smell of fire was upon them. Not one hair singed. The only thing that had burned away were the ropes and the bindings that had put them in hold before they were tossed in. I've said this from day one, that if I had been Daniel or Shadrach, I said, "Come get me." Because I'm walking around with the Son of God right now, and I'm having a good fellowship in here. You want me so bad, you just come get me. But he didn't. He showed reverence and honor and integrity. And as he come walking out, can you imagine how everyone around him must have suddenly hushed? Dude, there they are. Shut up, man. Something weird just took place. Be quiet. Hey, I know. Hey, why don't you go sniff it? Sure they smell. You know, somebody walked by. They don't even smell like fire. Not even like smoke. Daniel come out and honored the king again. Then in Daniel chapter 5, at about age 50, a new king took over, some arrogant cuss for the Chaldeans. Remember Belshazzar? Something happened in Daniel chapter 5. Many tackle you for saying. That's what God had written into the plaster with the finger of God as a hand appeared at one of his old festivals, those orgies he used to have. Written into the wall, many tackle you for sin, which literally means, dude, we waited you, we found you wanting, and you're going to die. The Bible records that very night he died. I don't know about you. Daniel, up to age 50, has had a very eventful life. And what does he get in return for this? Daniel chapter 6, at around 81 years old. For all of his faithfulness, for all of his duty and all of his honor and integrity, somebody got jealous over him. You ever had somebody get jealous over you? Come on now! You ever had somebody go behind your back and whisper, "Oh, I don't believe that"? How could they do it? Well, they're just jealous. They conspired against Daniel. Why? Because they knew that he'd be praying like he always had been. Was he hurting anyone? No, he was helping the entire kingdom. They were just too dumb to see it. So there he goes. Knowing the law had been decreed, he opens up his window toward Jerusalem, gets on his knees, and begins to no doubt pray aloud like he'd done before. "Lord, bless these people. Forgive them for what they do to me, because they don't understand who they are, what they could be. God, allow me to be your vessel in this place. Though I may not understand it in the flesh, I know your will be done above my own. And Father, whatever that is, I'm ready to walk another day in your will." So for the next 30 years, that's exactly what Daniel did. From age 15 to 81, Daniel had been found faithful. He has taken away every excuse we could have for not being in God's house. "Well, Brother Paul, I get tired." Everybody gets tired. People say, "Brother Paul, you don't understand. I could die." Well, die at church. It'll make for an eventful service. Amen. Hey, I read in the book of Acts. That's a pretty eventful service. Get out and bury him. Can you imagine being those guys that buried that crew? They come in and had to bury someone else. Ananias and Sapphira. "Oh, can you dig in those areas? Man, I hear it's rocky. Right? Well, it's rocky over there in that area." So it wasn't like we just dug in no nice, rich garden soil. We're talking they had to rock it or put it into a cave that had already been hewn out. Somebody had to work to put this body away. And as soon as they get all that sealed up, they come back sweating like a hog, no doubt. And here she is, lying to Peter and the rest of them, just like before. Is this what you sold the property for? Yep, that's what we did it for. Boom! You lied to the Holy Ghost. Boom! Can you imagine that kind of service? We need to have those around here. Everybody step up one time. You lied? Boom! Should have lied in church. Some of you are professional liars. What if God was judging us every lie like He did Ananias and Sapphira? So at age 81, here he is, tossed in the den of lions. My dad used to preach it all my life, that he just made pillows out of it. He probably fluffed up their mane so he got a good night's sleep. But there was somebody not sleeping. Old King Darius wasted away through the night, having nightmares about what had happened and kicking himself for making a stupid decree. He comes running at that den like, "Oh, Daniel! Say something, say something, say something." Oh, King, live forever. Can you imagine the relief he must have got? And then the fire within that King Darius rose up. He says, "Go get them guys that was lying to get Daniel. Get their old snarly wives, because you know behind every sorry man is usually a sorry woman. Huh? Come on. Huh? That was weak." Yeah, get them old snotty-nosed kids too, because they're punks growing up in the future. They'll be just like Mom and Dad. We need to get rid of all of them. The Bible says that they tossed them to the den. The lions could not wait to break their bones. And eagerly, can you imagine the blood, gore, and guts flying every which way? These kids had no idea, probably. Some of them underage. Go get them all. We're going to wipe out all that jealousy. And Darius went a little bit further. He goes, "Now I make a decree of all my dominion that if you don't worship the God of Daniel, you're going to be in trouble." Can you imagine what Daniel must have felt like that night when he was having his private time with the Lord? He sat there and said, "Lord, at age 15, you took me to this awful place. I remember what you did at age 19. Almost died then, and his whole life would have been lost. Oh, there at 42, I remember that monumental event. You saved me yet still. Oh, at age 50, who could forget that one? But Lord, I'm an old man. I went through all kinds of leaderships while being still held captive in this foreign land." And then Darius, in a moment of weakness, made a foolish decree. You think he'd learned his lesson from Nebuchadnezzar, but he didn't. He thought he'd learned his lesson from Belshazzar, but he didn't. Because pride infects every single person I've ever met. And we're all guilty of it. It becomes our crutch in life. It becomes our excuse when we can't get something accomplished. It's the very reason why we've not come to this altar and got our lives straight with Christ before Easter coming next week. It's the reason why most of us will not show up at the revival, while most will miss out on an opportunity to give their heart afresh and anew to a God who loves them so desperately. See, what God wants you to do is wipe away all the excuses. Because when you do, you stand there bare and you realize, wait a minute, Jesus really has paid it all. Turn to Psalm 93. We'll be done here shortly. King David understood. He went through a lot to try to get that reasoning. But he was able to write in Psalm 93 some of the greatest words I've ever read. The Lord reigneth. He is clothed with majesty. The Lord is clothed with strength, wherewith he hath girded himself. The world also established that it cannot be moved. Thy throne is established of old. Thou art from everlasting. The floods have lifted up, O Lord. The floods have lifted up their voice. The floods lift up their waves. The Lord on high is mightier than the noise of many waters, yea, than the mighty waves of the sea. Thy testimonies are very sure. Holiness becometh thine house, O Lord, forever. Turn to Psalm 119. Psalm 119. G.K. Chesterton said it this way: there are an infinity of angles at which one falls, only one at which one stands. Psalm 119, look at verse number 89. The Bible says, forever, O Lord, thy word is settled in heaven. Thy faithfulness is unto all generations. Thou hast established the earth and divideth. They continue this day according to thine ordinance, for all are thy servants. 1 Corinthians 15:58 says, therefore, my beloved brethren, be as steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, for as much as you know that your labor is not in vain in the Lord. Galatians 5:1 says, stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free. Be not entangled with the yoke of bondage. Now, at age 15, as he's being ripped from his home and everything that he knew, Daniel's whole world had come unraveled in just a moment. Everything he knew. Can you imagine what a 15-year-old kid must have been thinking when everything that he knew, every comfort he'd ever realized, was being stripped? And in bonds, he was taken back to Babylon. Days passed. He gets the message from the eunuchs that you have been chosen as one of those that was the wise, or one of those that didn't have the blemishes, or one of those that was highly favored. And we're going to nourish you for 3 years to appear before the king, to see what kind of service we can get out of you. It wasn't as if Daniel tried it for a week and then gave up on it. Daniel immediately had purpose in his heart, I will not defile myself with the king's portion. I have a king. Now the eunuch had to take that information back to the cooks. Dude, I know what the king said, and it could be our heads ultimately, but there's something different about this boy. So let's not give him the meat that we give all the rest of them. Let's not give him the wine from the king's house. Let's just give him what he asked for. He drank water and ate from the ground. And when he appeared in front of that king for the first time, he made the statement, you look well favored. You look better than the rest, in essence. Eunuchs in the background going, every day, Daniel, are you sure you don't want something? No, I'm good. Daniel, I see you've been fasting this week, and I don't like it when you fast because I'm supposed to plump you up. I'm supposed to make sure that everything's right, and you're not. You're taking a chance on not just yourself, but with me too. Consider me, Daniel. Can you imagine those private conversations between the eunuch and Daniel? Daniel wants to minister to him and says, but eunuch, you don't understand my God. See, I've purposed in my heart I won't do it. And until you appoint in your life that you won't do it, guess what? Sin will never become irreprehensible. But it needs to be. You need to look at sin and recoil. I don't want any part of it because I know it'll defile me. It'll break that severed communication between God and me, and I can't afford that. Daniel's very life took away every excuse we could ever muster. And as you go into study Daniel, you're amazed that God blessed him over and over and over and over again. Why? Because he stood at 15, he stood at 19, he stood at 42, he stood at 50, he stood at 81. And guess what, folks? He's still standing to this day. What a character Daniel was. What a man he still is. Folks, you may say, I can't be a Daniel. Yeah, but you can be who God made you to be. And it starts today. Father, we thank you for the day that we've had. Pray, Lord, that you continue the spirit that we've had in Sunday school, we've had here in services. Lord, I pray for those that are seeking answers that they've been beating themselves up trying to find. Lord, help them to remember it starts with humility. It starts with a surrendered attitude and a surrendered will. For that person who's sitting on our pews this morning that's not saved, Help them to realize they'll not go to hell because you don't love them. They'll go to hell because they don't love you. Father, if someone is here this morning that needs to make that decision, help them not be so ashamed that they not step out. That's the devil trying to cause fear. Help them to purpose in their heart that you are their God. According to Romans, Father, you'll save them. If you can't get in any other way, bless our time in Jesus' name.